This is a top-level overview of a custom rocket ignition device that I use. It uses a 5-volt solar panel and a 6-volt 10-farad supercapacitor, and it's replacing this Estes rocket ignition device which uses 4 AA batteries. So the benefit behind it is you won't ever have to use batteries again. As long as you get a full charge from the sun or enough of a charge to charge the supercapacitor, you can launch your rocket devices with this. All the tools that I use, the drill bits are for drilling the PG fittings in the enclosure right there and there. Then I've got my screwdriver to take off this base plate inside the enclosure. Also, I used it to knock out the hinge pins along with this mallet so that I could spray paint this separately. Then I use this auto wire stripper, and along with this wire stripper, I used this one to cut this wire for the solar panel, which I then soldered using the soldering iron right here and these helping hands. And then I used this other auto stripper right here to cut this heavy duty 10 gauge wire. And then I used this crimper right here to crimp the spade terminals to the rocker switch. And here are the spade terminals right here. And then you don't have to use this, but it was useful. It's a 14mm deep socket, hex socket that I used to put on the nut for the rocker switch on the enclosure. And then I used the spray paint, obviously, to spray paint the enclosure and my rocket base as well. After that, I also used this automotive fuse block as a disconnect, which basically emulates this disconnect right here, which prevents you from unsafely launching your rocket. So as long as the automotive fuse is not in there, this won't power on. So if I power on my rocker switch right now, you'll see the red LED turns on. It has a charge, and it would have, if the rocket engines were connected at the end of those leads, the rocket would have launched. Also, I use this crimper to attach these alligator clips. I will provide a list of all the parts in the description below. Once I routed everything properly, I'll go over the steps of how I routed it really quick. I was able to successfully launch the rocket. I soldered this solar panel right here with this wire. These are my positive and negative leads. I've got my diode in the positive line and make sure that polarity is going that way. So that prevents current of a charged supercapacitor from going back to the solar panel when the solar panel is either shaded or it's nighttime. And then I've got my ground. So the ground is going to two things. It's going to the ground of the rocker switch, and it's going to your ground connection, which goes outside to the rocket. And then I've got my positive connection, which you can't see it, but it's going outside here. It's going through this fuse block, and then it goes back here to complete the positive connection. And once I've got that positive connection goes out to the rocket. This ground connection is just completing the connection so that the LED light can turn on the rocker switch. And that's it. I just put this solar panel in. I was gonna create custom standoffs and mount them to this base, but I made the mistake of not drilling the PG fitting holes high enough, so I couldn't put the base plate back in, so just keep that in mind. But other than that, I would have made custom standoffs that would have been screwed on here, and they would have been holding, a custom case would have been holding this solar panel high enough. Or lock up the enclosure properly. And I like it because you don't have to use screws that I've used in the past with my previous enclosures. And I will provide a link where I have CAD models of this later on in the future. And that covers how this works in a nutshell. Also, I forgot to mention I use this accelerometer to take stats on the rocket. So it's called the altimeter too. It's pretty good. I primarily got it for determining my top speed and also the highest altitude that this flew at. I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with launching the rocket. I'm gonna open my rocker switch right here and open the switch in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Testing a launch with the C6 engine on the rocket. This time I'm gonna make sure I turn off the ignition switch right away in case the leads cross like they did last time after the rocket launched. Launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.